was at camp, I defended him. I defended him to the directors. The directors almost kicked me out of camp. So, it was fun times. Fun times. Okay, my name is Scott Latham, and today I'm here representing the Wesley Foundation. The Wesley Foundation is part of the Methodist Church. It is an arm of the Methodist Church on university campuses all over America, where we are attempting, our goal, our aim, our mission is to make or continue to make a Christian movement across the campus. Now, myself, I've been at the Wesley at Texas Tech for 9 years. I'm in my 9th year, and I really started as an experiment. My official title is Director of Spiritual Formation. I have no idea what that. We just make it mean whatever we need it to mean at the moment. But my unofficial title is really my favorite. My unofficial title, and really this title, my unofficial title, is really what was an experiment that we were going to try with me. My unofficial title is Grandpa. And really what we did is that 9 years ago, Al, you saw Al speaking in the video, Al, the director, decided that he wanted to see if a grandpa could have impact and importance to college students in their transition from adolescence to adulthood. Let me just describe to you my day. A typical day is this. When I'm at the Wesley, I show up at the Wesley. There's someone standing, waiting to visit with me, students. So we make our way to my office. We unlock the office door. We go in, we sit down. While we're visiting, there's a knock at the door, another student saying they would like to have a visit. So I just have a seat right out here, and I'll be with you. And so now I have a backpack, and I set it down. And so we start those conversations, and it just goes on that whole day, just like that, one after the other, one after the other. I never unpack my backpack. And then when it's time to go, there's a student that's walking with me out towards the car, and then that's the end of the day. There's just a need for students to have conversation with Grandpa. But now, today, this is I want you to understand, even though I'm going to talk a lot about the Wesley Foundation, and I'm going to try to illustrate some things to you, really what I want to try to accomplish is the importance of you as we attempt ministry at the campus of Texas Tech. I'm going to read a scripture. This comes from the letter of Philippians. I just want to unpack it just a little bit because I think it connects with what I'm trying to say to you this morning. The letter to the Philippians, this is a letter that Paul wrote. It's a letter written by an inmate, we think, in a Roman prison. His name is Paul. And he's writing to the Philippians to thank them for provisions that they have sent to him. In that day, prison isn't like it is today. You had to find a way to get food for yourself. You had to find a way to get blankets. There were zero resources for you in prison. And so the only way that you didn't starve to death, the only way you didn't freeze to death, was that your friends and family brought you what you needed. So here's Paul in a Roman prison. Prison was so bad that many of the inmates in that day and time either died from disease or they committed suicide. So here's Paul in, we think, a Roman prison, and he gets some provisions from the church at Philippi. And so then what he does is he sits down and he finds some kind of resource to write, some kind of paper, some kind of papyrus, some kind of ink. Something was made available where he could write this letter. And so he sits down and writes this thank you note, is what this is. Now, in this, he begins to talk a little bit about his circumstances. In chapter 1, verse 18, he's telling them that there's some who are preaching Jesus where he's at, and they're doing it out of love and goodwill. There's some who are preaching Jesus, telling the story of Jesus, and they're doing it out of selfish ambition. But then he says this, he says, but what does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. The story of Jesus is being told. And then he says this, because of this, I rejoice. Now, the word rejoice is just simply the word joy put in verbal form. So he says, so because of all this, I'm practicing joy. That's what he's saying. But then he says this. This is the place where I want us to focus on just a moment. Yes, and I will continue on rejoicing. I'm going to keep it up. I resolve to continue to practice joy. For, and he gives reasons why, I know that through your prayers and God's provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, what has happened to me will turn out for my deliverance. Now there's some key words here. Prayers, provision, and deliverance. Let me read it again. For I know that your prayers and God's provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, what has happened to me will turn out for my deliverance. And there's a long story behind the word deliverance. He's not talking about getting out of jail, and he's not talking about getting his head cut off so he can go to heaven. When you study that word, you begin to realize that what Paul is really saying is that through your prayers and your provision, what's going to happen is it's going to prove that I was right. I was right to bet it all on Jesus. I was right to put myself in harm's way to tell the story of Jesus. I was right. I'll be vindicated, and it'll be shown that it is right that I bet everything on Jesus. Beloved, that's the story we're trying to get across on the campus. We're trying to help young adults learn and know that the very best thing they can do is bet it all on Jesus. And guess what is making that possible? It is by your prayers and your provision. That's what's making it happen. I don't know if anyone ever thinks about this. On Thursday nights is when we have our worship service at the Wesley Foundation. It's when we try to gather in as many of the college students as we can. We never take an offering, mostly because college students don't have anything to give. How is it then that we keep the electricity on? How is it then that we offer support to staff so that they can spend time with students? How is it then that we offer them meals when we have gatherings? How does that happen? It's because of your prayers and your provision. That's how it happens. So, if you want to look at it this way, this morning, I am your letter to the Philippians. I'm your thank you note sent from the Wesley Foundation to thank you for all that you have, are, and will do in order for the Wesley Foundation to show that it is right to bet everything on Jesus. I want to illustrate how important this is that you are helping us do. I'm going to need 10 volunteers. I got them picked out already, 10 volunteers. Okay, I need Misty and Todd. I need Pam. I need Lucas, Penny. I need all y'all over there on the wall. And is that, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I need one volunteer. One more volunteer. Okay, come here. Okay, now, I need all of y'all to just stand like this, shoulder to shoulder, facing the crowd, just across here, okay?
By the way, Deborah is a graduating senior this year.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate what is the religious makeup of just a university campus across America. Now this is just in general. You won't go find this in any research paper. I'm just trying to illustrate to you what it looks like and what is happening on the campus. Okay. All right. You three, scoot that way just a little bit. Okay. Y'all are Christian. Yeah. Y'all two, scoot that way just a little. Okay. All right. Now let me have a space between each one of y'all. Just kind of spread. Okay. All right. So on a university campus, just in general in America, about 30% are Christian, 20%, how they will identify themselves is called no affiliation whatsoever. In campus language, that they're called the nuns, N-O-N-E, not N-U-N-N, okay? Nuns, N-O-N-E, okay? Those are the nuns, okay? Then we have about 1% Jewish, 1% Muslim, 1% Eastern religion, which is Hindu, Buddhist, 1% other, and 1% just unknown. They don't put anything. Okay, so that gives you the idea of just what a university campus looks like religious-wise. Right? Now let me ask you a question. Which group do you think is growing the most? Okay, this is so fun because people are going. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you which group. This group right here is the group that's growing the most and the fastest. And you know how they're doing it? I'll show you.
Hey, you nuns.
This group is shrinking on the university campus of America. This group is growing on the university. Okay, now one more thing. I'll stay right here. One more thing. Let's say that these 10 people illustrate your youth group. This is your youth group. There's 10 in your youth group, and all of them are very active and very vocal about their faith, about their love for Jesus. Okay? So, they're energized. They do a lot with you, for you. They do a lot among themselves as far as their faith. Very active kind of people. 10 people, and they're all about to go to Texas Tech. So we follow them through Texas Tech, and now they're graduating. They're now graduates. According to research, only these 3 will graduate with an intact Christian faith. The rest of these will identify themselves as something other than Christian by the time they graduate. This is what we're facing on the university campus. Did y'all give my volunteers a hand? Now, if we had time, I'd be asking you questions like, what does that do to you? To see all that information. What kind of thinking does that stir in you? Let me tell you why what you saw is taking place. There is immense pressure for young college adults to question their faith on the university campus. I'll tell you right now that there is a professor at Texas Tech who, if you mention Christianity in his class, he flunks you. Secular education worships science. It is a religion to them, really. I'm not trying to categorize it that way. They literally bow down to science. And so there's this great pressure put on students to redefine truth according to the scientific method. Which means that if you can't observe it and you can't test it, it doesn't exist. It's not real. Everything else is just opinion, and it is treated that way. So you can see on a secular university campus, the immense pressure that students face in terms of moving away from their Christian faith. Now, along with that is this pressure, along with the pressure to redefine what is truth, there's also great moral pressure on the university campus. Drugs, alcohol, sex is abundantly available on a university campus. And many Christian young adults will let go of their Christian faith because they experience a moral failure and then they don't know what to do with that. They got involved with a group of people who began to experiment or move towards a lifestyle that is not consistent with the Christian faith. They often have a decision to make, either to be alone all by themselves or to stay with the group and continue to practice that lifestyle. They will often will come to see that the Christian faith is just too hard to live in light of the extreme pressure to be involved in some form of group immorality. And then on top of all those two is the incredible pressure of just personal transitions that they're making. For the first time, they're not under mom and dad's scrutiny. For the first time, they have incredible freedoms. What do you do with that? And a lot of them, a lot of times, began to make choices with that personal freedom that ultimately proved to be destructive. So, what do you do with that? Beloved, that's what your Wesley Foundation is for. I'd like for you just to imagine if this isn't true, it's just an imagination, just imagine the campus of Texas Tech as a war zone for faith, for the Christian faith. It's just a war zone. I want you to then imagine that the Wesley Foundation is a battleship stationed just offshore. Literally we are. We're just a block away from the campus. And it's there that we are waging war for those young adults that go to Texas Tech to come out on the other end with an intact faith in Jesus and an understanding of how to live in a way that is productive, successful, and healthy. How to live a gospel-centered life. We try to establish a presence on campus and provide ways for students to get involved and become a part of a Christian community where they can dialogue about their faith. We give them a place to safely wrestle with theological, social, relational, philosophical struggles. These folks over here are just amazing people. And they have not just come to the Wesley, but the ones that you are, including Holly, Nick's wife, they've stepped up to leadership, where they take on some responsibilities of caring for younger college students who are coming to Texas Tech. You heard them mention Freshly, which is our freshman program. And I think that some of you guys have provided a meal for that program. This is where we get freshmen involved. There's hardcore Bible study for our upperclassmen. There's underground worship service on Thursday nights. And then there's holiday parties and dances. There's tailgate gatherings for football games. We have an amazing intramural program that gets students involved in the intramurals and to meet students in the intramural program. And that intramural program is led by a student leader. We have student leadership, like I just described, that directly care for students who come to the Wesley. Your prayers, your provision is what makes that possible. You make it possible for us to raise up young adults in their Christian faith to become leaders for Jesus wherever they go. Wherever they go. I want to thank you. I want you to hear our deep, heartfelt thanks for your prayers and your provision. We bless you in the name of Jesus. Now, beloved, we'll be around for a little bit if you have any questions that you want to ask or you want to talk to us about anything. But I'm going to turn it back over to Todd. Thank you for this time that you let us share with you this morning.